People are beginning to realize that the West is cooked. Cost of living is out of control. It seems impossible to buy a house, and remote work is giving people the option to pack their suitcases to find a better quality of life somewhere else. Hi everyone, xin chào mọi người. My name is Tommy, and 4 years ago, I left Canada to move to Asia. I was living in Bangkok, Thailand for the past 4 years, but I recently moved to Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And in today's video, I'm gonna give you guys a brutally honest review of living here for the past 6 months. The first thing that people think about when they think about Vietnam is the cost of living. And I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't base your decision on where you live solely on the cost of living. I think there's a bunch of different things that you need to consider, a bunch of things that you need to factor in if you want to make the best decision for yourself. There are a lot of places that are cheaper than Vietnam, but for me personally, I think the quality of life relative to the cost of living in Vietnam is the best in the world. If you're on a budget, then you can get a studio apartment for $300 to $500 and a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment anywhere from $500 to $1,000 US, depending on where you are in the city. And Vietnamese food is fire. A typical Vietnamese food will cost you anywhere from $2 to $5. If you want to eat out, then it'll cost you $5 to $10. And if you want to go to a nice restaurant, it'll cost you about $10 to $20 for your meal. My phone plan only costs me $5 a month, and it gives me 8 gigabytes of data every day. Right now, I'm staying in a 3-bedroom apartment in Thao Dien, which is one of the most expensive areas in Ho Chi Minh City, and it costs about 20 million VND per month. Which, let's do the conversion, 20 million VND is about $760 US. And most people commute here with a bike. I don't actually have a bike, but a typical taxi ride costs about 100,000 VND, which is about $4 US. And that same taxi ride in Canada or America would easily cost me $30 to $40. And I think with the lower cost of living, Vietnam can attract a certain type of people, and a lot of the people that move here are stingy, but I think it's your responsibility if you come here and you're taking advantage of the lower cost of living to help as many people as you possibly can. Now let's get juicy and talk about the dating. I made a video on Instagram and it ended up going pretty viral, and I got a lot of hate for it. But what I was saying in the video is that there's a term in Vietnam, it's called LBH, which is loser back home. And what I was saying is that if you are a loser back home and you come here, you're still going to be a loser. And what I meant by loser is somebody who doesn't work on themselves, somebody who doesn't go to the gym, somebody who's still living in their mom's basement. You're not just going to come to Vietnam and that isn't going to solve all of your problems. You're still going to be a loser. But I think a lot of people took that video out of context and thought that I was saying that if you move to Vietnam with the intention of finding a wife, that makes you a loser. But what I was actually saying is that you can't just expect that moving to Vietnam is going to solve all of your problems. And if you're not doing the work on a daily basis to become the best version of yourself, it doesn't matter what country that you're in. Now that we got that out of the way, dating in Vietnam is going to feel a lot more traditional than the West, which for me is great because I prefer more traditional women. But a lot of guys will come here and they experience a lot of culture shock because they're not used to a girl expecting you to pay for everything, expecting you to pick them up, etc., etc. I think in general, Vietnamese girls are less likely to casually date. They're more relationship minded, and here people settle down, they have kids when they're 24, 25, which coming from the West is extremely young. I've done my fair share of dating since I've been here, and what I've noticed is that Vietnamese girls generally live with their family. Just like with anywhere in the world, there are good girls, there are bad girls, and I think your dating life is often a reflection of where you're at in your life. So if you're not attracting the type of girls that you want, maybe you need to look in the mirror. I'm very lucky and I'm very privileged because I do speak Vietnamese fluently, but if you're not able to speak Vietnamese, you're effectively reducing the amount of people that you can date by like 60%. All right, I'm sitting on the ground right now and my foot is falling asleep, so we are gonna move somewhere else. Now, I want to talk about the quality of life. If you're able to come here and you're able to make a few thousand USD per month, then you're going to be able to afford things that seem expensive back home. Things like eating out daily, getting your laundry done, getting massages, and no, not that type of massages, weekly haircuts, cleaning services, and life in Vietnam is just more convenient. Anything that you want, you can order it from your phone, whether it's groceries, whether it's food, whether it's car rides. Everything is so accessible and everything is so affordable. And full transparency, once you get an experience of how convenient life is in Vietnam, it's gonna be hard to go back home. One of the things that I don't love too much about Vietnam, but it comes with living in any major city, is the traffic. If you're constantly commuting from home to work, then the traffic can be a little bit overwhelming. And I have the utmost respect for drivers in Vietnam because driving here is like driving on expert difficulty mode. And I guess depending on which parts of Vietnam that you're typically in, I find that it's not as walkable as a lot of other major Western cities, but you kind of get used to it. I don't think that the most dangerous thing living in Vietnam is the crime. I think the most dangerous thing about living in Vietnam is the traffic. Speaking of safety, I think Vietnam is one of the safest places that I've ever been to in the world. Here, I wouldn't be too worried about my mom walking home or my girlfriend walking home, but where I'm from in Canada, which is a major city, I would be extremely worried because there's just a lot of crazy homeless people struggling with mental health, whereas here where I'm living, it's a lot safer. But just like with dating, there are good people everywhere and there are bad people everywhere, so you just need to have a little bit of street smarts. Now, in terms of one of the things that I think may deter a lot of people from wanting to move to Vietnam is the language barrier. Now, depending where you are in Ho Chi Minh City, you can definitely survive if you don't speak Vietnamese, like District 1, or if you're in Thao Dien, where I am. But if you are able to speak the language, your quality of life is going to be significantly better. And personally, I think it's a little disrespectful if you move somewhere and you live there for 3, 4, 5 years and you don't make any effort to learn the language. Now, if you're outside of District 1 or Thao Dien, then the level of English drops off fast. As someone that is Vietnamese but not Vietnamese, it is a very interesting experience. Just like with anywhere in the world, the more that you can speak the local language, the better your experience is going to be. Now, one of the things that I absolutely hate about living in Vietnam is the air quality. Growing up where I grew up in Canada, I would be able to get in my car, drive across the city and come home, and I would still feel reasonably clean. But here, as soon as I step outside and I come back home, I feel like I need to take a shower just because the air is so polluted. I think if you're a then yeah, the air quality might be something that deters you from moving here, but at the end of the day, it's just a little bit of pollution, you know? I'll be alright. Now, I want to talk about the people. One of the things that I've really appreciated about living in Vietnam is that Vietnamese people are some of the friendliest people that you will ever meet. Whether it's your Grab driver, whether it's the person delivering you food or cleaning your house, Vietnamese people are so friendly. They love to talk and they're just very charming people. So I'm Viet Kieu, which means that I'm Vietnamese, but I grew up in the West. So I think my experience of living in Vietnam is going to be vastly different than somebody who is a complete foreigner, someone who isn't Vietnamese and moves to Vietnam. So I may not be the best person that can speak on a completely foreign experience, but I think if you are somebody that's looking for a better quality of life, earns income online, and just wants to escape the rat race in the West, moving to Vietnam is one of the best decisions that you can make. And if you are Viet Kieu like me, then I think coming to Vietnam, a place that our parents worked so hard to immigrate from to give us a better life, is one of the biggest privileges that you have. Would I recommend it? Yes, I would. So this is your sign to book that one-way ticket to Vietnam.